Welcome to the Soul Call with Kelly B. I'm Kelly Butchart, soul medicine woman, energy alchemist, intuitive guide and change maker. I'm here to activate soul remembrance, unlock purpose, and support the personal and collective evolution into sacred sovereignty. This podcast is a space for heart-led women to rise, to take their power back, to walk in truth and live elevated lives of joy, abundance and deep fulfillment. Through powerful conversations with visionaries, way-showers and spiritual leaders, we weave ancient wisdom, quantum healing and divine insight to awaken something within your soul. This is more than a podcast, it's a movement, a remembering. This is the Soul Call. All of my offerings, social links and ways to connect are in the show notes below each episode. Be sure to check them out, I'd love to meet you there. And please remember to like, subscribe and share. Thank you for being here. Hi everyone and welcome back to the Soul Call with Kelly B, where we dive deep into conversations that awaken the heart, expand consciousness and connect us to something greater. Today I am absolutely honoured to be joined by someone who needs little introduction in the spiritual world, the incredible TJ Higgs. TJ is undoubtedly one of the world's most respected spiritual leaders, a Sunday Times best-selling author, powerful public speaker, and mentor with over 25 years of experience. With her deep understanding of the spiritual realms and an extraordinary ability to connect with the other side, she's brought healing, comfort and insight to the thousands of people around the world who know her and her work. Many of you will recognise her, as I do, from popular television shows like Psychic Private Eyes and The Three Mediums. That takes me back, TJ. Where her accuracy, compassion and presence made her a true standout. She's become a beloved voice in the media and a guiding light for so many on their spiritual journey. Right now, she's back by popular demand with her UK tour, Love Never Dies, a moving and powerful show that reminds us of the unbreakable bonds of love beyond this world. And you can find out more about TJ and book your tickets at tjhiggs.com, and I will drop that link down below. So TJ, it's such a joy to welcome you here today. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. That introduction made me feel quite emotional, to be honest. Yeah, I know you. That was definitely from your soul, my darling. Thank you. Yeah, I don't think we stop sometimes and think what impact we have had with our work, do we? We tend to just roll on and keep going, and then sometimes sit still just for a second and think, wow, is that really me?
Yeah, I am so, and I truly mean this, TJ, I'm so honoured to have you on today because I know that you're a super busy lady, and I'm so grateful to Rochelle Carslake, a recent podcast guest here as well, and to everybody that's tuning in that listens to these as well. I'm really, really, really so grateful to Rochelle for connecting us and for everybody for bringing their love, because it's because of the audience that I keep going. You know, it's all these beautiful messages that you get back. So Rochelle, thank you for connecting me to TJ, because I have to be honest, TJ, you'd kind of fallen off my personal radar for a bit. I know, like, what was I thinking? Growing up, I was always aware of the unseen realms, even as a little girl. And yeah, always aware of spirit. I wouldn't have called it spirit when I was a little girl. But as I became a teenager and into my early sort of 20s, I really started to read a lot of books. I was watching a lot of TV mediums on TV like John Edward, Derek Acora, Colin Fry, friends of yours, and yourself.
Yeah.
And I would read your articles and magazines and things, and life goes on, doesn't it? And different people come into your awareness, and you're working with different people, etc., etc. So I am so grateful that Rochelle has also brought you back into my awareness again. I'm like, oh my God, how did I forget about TJ? She's so amazing.
Oh, thank you. I actually had a conversation earlier with one of my teachers earlier today. And because I've started to work a lot in more spiritual churches and kind of share there rather than just at the theatres. And she was saying that she gets people come up and say, because she's usually in my audience if I'm in the Midlands. And she said, people are like, oh, you know, wasn't she the one that used to do this? And wasn't she the one that used to do that? And I mean, I am 55, so I have, you know, I've done the years, but I think I did sort of fall off the radar a little bit in the UK because I went to Japan for 10 years. I've been working in Japan. So, and that sort of took a bit of a priority for me over my work in the UK. But I am absolutely back now on celebrating my 25th year, back on UK soil, if you like, and trying to share my gift, you know, locally, not just as a person on stage, because that also has its merits and its worth. I know that, but I think there's nothing better than being boots on the ground with the people that are developing, share your love of spirit, the knowledge and understanding. There's nothing quite like, you know, sharing your messages, or sharing their messages, I should say, with people that understand. And I was always like a bit, well, they don't need me because they do understand. But I've learned very quickly this last 12 months that actually, you know, you can't decide who needs you. They do, spirit do. So
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. And I think it's having this awareness within yourself and then paying attention to the signs and the people and the beautiful divine synchronicities that come into your life as well. So you've definitely been guided to come back here with this renewed purpose and passion, and to get really close, in close proximity to people, to serve people at that sort of level that they're needing. And I think that just brings back to the beautiful authenticity that you hold. You've never ever lost that. And that's what I think is just so beautiful about you is, you know, despite having had the fame, if you like, and being on big stages and being very, very well known, you are still so humble at heart, and you've never lost that sense of service to
I
others.
thank you for that, because that is really important to me as well, because obviously I worked with the, you know, the late great Derek Acora, Colin Fry, and there was at some points of my spiritual career, I don't really like to call it that word, but and at one point Derek actually advised me to stop doing readings. You know, you have to take yourself away from people, and that was the advice that he gave me, and it really made me nervous because I thought, I'm not supposed to be that medium on a pedestal. I'm you know, a medium in the room with everybody else, and I will credit every other medium that's working, because we all do the same work. And if I do it with more noise, if you like, or you know, people know who I am, but I'm always championing, and that spirit told me a long time ago that I was going to be an ambassador for spirit, and I was like, I thought they were crazy. And but I've grown into that role, and like I was saying to Pauline earlier when we were having a conversation, my student, my teacher, and I said, you know, I always like to finish in a church and say there are other mediums that will be here next week or the week after, and mediums in your own community that you should be visiting. Don't just look for us with the, you know, with the big noise and the big name or whatever, however you want to be, because there's a medium somewhere right now doing absolutely the same work as I am, but you will never know her name or his name, but nonetheless they are still connecting to the other side of life and still so valuable. And we might not know them, but the spirit world do you know? And I'm always very aware of those people, because they're doing our job, aren't they? You know, quietly, if you like.
I love this. So I have recently started a Sacred Steps spiritual development group in my home, and it's by invitation only, and I don't advertise it. And I had this beautiful surprise this week because my spiritual mentor and teacher, confidant and friend of over 20 years, she came, and she's had such a difficult year. She lost her husband last October, and it's been a tough 7 months for her, but it was so beautiful to connect with her again. So she was a working medium, you know, doing the local churches and things, and then she did some theatre work, and she's just an incredible soul, very humble, you know, one of these hardworking mediums that is just there to do heart service and to connect, you know, loved ones, just like you're talking. So, you know, she's never been on the TV or been in magazines, but I just hold her here in my heart so much. And I've spoken about her in previous episodes because she's been such a huge part of my spiritual awakening. So, such a big part of my journey of my life. You know, she's seen me through so much. And I would love to hear how this journey started for you because you're making me reflect on how much Ruth means to me. So her name's Ruth Gibson. So hi, Ruth, if you listen to this. Love you so much. You know how much I love you. I, in my early 20s on this journey, as I say, I was reading, watching TV mediums, etc., like yourself. I'd gone for 3 consecutive readings, and Ruth was the third one. And she was the third person to say to me, you know that you have this incredible gift. And she piqued my interest because I thought, okay, right, this is the third one to say this. Do they all say this? And she was starting a spiritual development group in her cabin called the Angel Sanctuary. And I was the first person that she invited along, which I'm so grateful for. And so that is what began my conscious journey into connecting with the unseen realms and connecting with spirit. And I have to say, I was a little bit scared to begin with. I thought, oh gosh, am I going to have spooks following me home? And, you know, so naivety, you know, as much as I was really interested, I was like, oh, what's this going to be like? And of course, it wasn't anything like that. It was about, you know, meditating properly. She taught us all sorts of protocols, you know, about psychic protection, working with your own energy, working always ethically through your heart.
Yeah.
And I have had some of the most incredible experiences that I don't think people believe because it's so unbelievable. And the evidence that's come through has been so amazing. And, you know, I didn't decide to progress as to work as a platform medium. Other people did. But I chose to go a bit underground, TJ, because I worked in schools at the time.
Right.
And it's only now, although I don't call myself a medium, I am using my abilities in the work that I do. So that's kind of been my journey into that world and consciously connecting. I believe that you didn't even realize that you had these abilities till you were
About 26. I thought everyone could see things, and I just thought when, you know, like when I told the story in my book Living with a Gift, that we had a Jack Russell, and when she was glowing green you could play with her, but if she was glowing blue, don't touch her because she bites. And I remember my brother Colin, who's he's actually in spirit now, and I remember him, he would always play with her when she was blue, and she would bite him and he would be surprised that she's biting. And I just thought, well, she's got the ump because she's blue. And after I wrote the book, I actually had a chat with him about it, and I said, you know, I've talked about Pepsi, that was her name, and Jack Russell. And Colin was like, she was brown and white traced, you know, so she was never green or blue. But to me, she was, and there was always like a voice, you know, there was always someone else there. And when I was I think I was about 16, I had a really bad experience with with a friend and a boyfriend, and anyway, it was horrible. And she knocked on the door and said that he was going to hurt her. So I've come running out, and she disappeared, and I couldn't. And I lived at the top of a hill, and so she'd obviously gone up to the top of the hill. And as I'm walking up the hill, I heard a voice very loudly say to me, "You're going to get her. Turn around now." And I was like, where has this come from? Do you know, what's going on? Ignored it. And I did get very hurt because her and 3 other girls literally beat me with anyway, it was awful. But that situation happened and I didn't listen. And I have never, ever to this day ignored that voice since then. So I kind of, you know, I married a soldier. We lived in Northern Ireland, and again, I have a decorator here at the house, and I was talking to him about it, and I said my husband would come home, and I'd be like, "You've been in a helicopter today," and I was never allowed to know where he was because of the job that he did. And as far as I was concerned, he was in an office, and he was like, "No, I've not been in a helicopter. Don't know what you're talking about," you know. And then after he'd left the military, you know, and we'd had a conversation, I think we were even divorced by then, and he didn't understand how I always knew where he was, you know. And to me, that was just normal. I knew, of course, I can sit and I can think about you and I can see where you are. You know, everyone does that, don't they? You know, so it wasn't till I was 26, I went for me and the Army Wives were actually in London to go and see Greece at the theatre. And so it was a wives trip, if you like. And we went to Covent Garden, and there was a young girl there. I was 26 at the time, so she was probably about 18, 19, I think. She was doing palm reading. So I was like, oh, come on, well, let's have a go at that. Anyway, she read my hand like a book, and I was like, you know, I was unhappy. No one, you know, I didn't tell anyone how I was feeling, apart from my best friend, obviously. And then she told me what I'd be doing, and I just thought, really? And so after that, I then decided, well, they told me, the voice in my head, this man in my head said, you can read palms. And I was like, okay. And so I went to Open University for a week, and I decided I was going to try and read the palms. And I scared a few people, scared myself a little bit, I have to say, you know, and left my husband. And then it wasn't until I was sort of 30, really, I went and had a reading. I'd been in a relationship and seen this man that I'd been with leaving that morning. I went to work, but I could see him on the motorway, and it was like really visual. Do you know, my whole day was really visual. And when I got home, my neighbour said, "Oh, are you moving?" And I was like, "No." And then I walked into the house, and all of his things had gone. You know, he'd taken the television, he'd taken, you know, what things, material things. And so I went for a reading. My cousin said, let's go. And I thought, oh, I don't even know if I believe in all that, you know. And I'd seen spirits since I was a tiny baby, but I just thought everyone could do that. But actually having a psychic reading, didn't really think much of that. And I went to a man, the guy that run the psychic fair was called Barry, and I kind of credit him with me now, you know, Barry, because I met him. But he said, choose someone for a reading. And there was a man there, and he was dressed like a Native American, and no one was with him. And every other stall was busy. And this guy was just sat there. And I just thought, it looks quite cool. You know, he's obviously owning it. He's dressed like this native. And growing up, I always wanted the Indians to win. You know, cowboys and Indians. Yeah. When the Indians got hurt, I used to be upset. I used to be crying. You know, I understand now why, because of my lineage with my guides. And he just told me, forget about the boyfriend. He wasn't even interested in fact that I was there to find out what was going on with my boyfriend and all this stuff. He was like, you're going to sit in a circle. I was like, what is that? You know, the man that runs, Barry, you know, runs a circle. And so I went over and spoke to him, and he said, yeah, you need to come. And so he spoke about a panther. And I was like, how does he know I dream about a panther every night? You know, weird man. And took my cousin with me, because I thought, I'm not going on my own, because I don't know how weird these people are, you know. And we're walking along this corridor, and I'm like, right, don't drink the water in case they drug us. Don't do that. You know, I was like 20 old. I was about 28, 29 at the time. She would have been about 25, 26. And so we don't do this. We don't have any food, no drink. Don't take your shoes off. All this stuff in my head, because I'm like, I don't know what a circle is. And we walked in, and they'd heard us along the corridor. So that was really embarrassing. And then we sat in this like meditation, and this man, I could see this man who is my guide, and Paddy, I could see him as clear as I could see anything, you know. And it was like he was with my eyes closed, but stood in front of me. But I felt him on my face. I could feel him like in me, sort of thing. And he's quite a big guy. And my cousin was sat just behind me. And so we come out of this meditation, and I looked at her, and she went, Tracy, I can't take you home looking like that. You look like a bloke. And I said, what do you mean? So she described him, and that's the man I can see that stood in front of me when I've got my eyes closed. So that was an introduction to Paddy, who is not the most attractive, and he'll probably get sulky if I say that out loud. But and from then on, it was just like, I don't know. I'm sure you understand when you first start sitting in a circle and like, I don't know, becoming you, because that's what it is, isn't it? It's like you're becoming you, this person that I always describe it to some people like I had a black hole inside me. I had beautiful, I know I was divorced, but you know, whatever. But I had beautiful kids. I had a roof over my head. You know, I didn't really go without anything, but I had a black hole inside me, and I could not understand what that was meant to be. And then the minute I started understanding who I am, who I really am, that's filled up now, you know. And to be loved unconditionally, we all talk about that, don't we? But when you work as a medium, when you serve spirit and you step into your service, you feel that unconditional love. And that's the only time in my life, I mean, I unconditionally love my children, obviously, but I feel that from spirit. I feel loved, in immeasurable love, you know. And that's why I'll never stop doing it. You know, I have very good accountant, and he knows what I do. And but we had a meeting with one of the team, and the guy said, so what's your retirement plan? And I just looked at him, I was like, I don't have a retirement plan. I've got to do this till I die, you know. And he was very like, how are we going to work out your pension, and how are we going to do this, and how are we going to do that? It's like, no, we don't do none of that. I work and then I die, you know. You know, so it was just, it's just from then on accidents, you know. Like I met someone that said come for a esoteric agency. That's the first agency I was with, and a friend said, why don't you go along? And I'm like, yeah, all right then. So I go to Kent. I have all these photos taken. They've been, and they were like, you're photogenic, and I'm like, really, you know. And then they got me in magazines like Spirit and Destiny. I really miss that.
That was my favorite.
all the magazines, these TV shows, these everything. And it sounds really rude to say, but that I never expected to do all that. That's not, I hear a lot of people that say, I want to be famous like you. And I don't want to be famous. That's not why I do this. You know, it's not about that. In fact, that bit is, if I can use my fame, whatever the word is, to help other people, like charity wise and stuff, all day long. But I'm a Z list. That's what you know, they're like, what's a celebrity? It's like, no, I'm not really.
And that's coming right back to my original point, was just how humble and authentic you are. You've just kept it so real. And that's what really, really, that's what we need more of in the world, TJ, because there's a lot of, it's the same in every field, isn't it? There's a lot of charlatans and there's a lot of fakery. And so what I love, what you've weaved into there, is although you knew you had these abilities even as a baby and as a small child, and you just thought everybody was like this, you readily accepted it. But even when you went along to the spiritual development group, there's a healthy dose of skepticism there, like, right, let's not eat, let's not drink.
They could have drugged me, I don't know.
That is the realness. I so love it, and I can totally relate. Oh my goodness. So you mentioned your guide there, Paddy. And do you have any more, or is he your main guide? Because I would love to hear about how he introduced himself, so to speak, or, you know, grabbed your awareness and said, this is who I am. And how did that all kind of come online for you?
He has been with me since that very first circle. And but he's been with me forever, obviously. You know, I have a guide called Luke that I call, Paddy is a law unto himself, really. Luke is what I call he's my sensible guide. He will talk about philosophical things, you know, and important things, whereas it's all right, I can hear him now, and Paddy's like, he can do that sometimes, so I mustn't put him down, or he'll be sulking, and he does sulk. And, but Luke is very almost very I can't even explain. He's of time, do you know? Luke is of time. But when I wrote my book, True Spirit, my third book, I'd worked with Colin Fry, and I'd worked with Tony Stockwell as well.
Oh, love
and Tony believes in reincarnation, Colin didn't. And I was like sitting in the middle then, which one of these, they're both mediums, and I'm like the baby. So I spoke to Luke about it, and he's the one I will ask questions. You know, I will sit and ask him questions, and he described it as like a soul pool. And the way he showed me was like a Scooby-Doo film where Scrappy-Doo steals all the souls, and he's got all the souls of everybody. So that's how I think that's how I describe it in my book as well. Hopefully we put a little bit more information into that. But Luke showed me his eyes. So all my guides have got my eyes. And I've had people not even know me and have my name and draw my guide, whoever it is, and they have my eyes. So these people are drawing my eyes without knowing me, you know, or meeting me and just got a name. And so Luke told me, and I believe this because I'm a bit of a control freak. I think a lot of mediums are, but I'm a Capricorn as well, so obviously Luke said that he is part of me and I'm part of him. So for me, my guides are part of my soul. So they are who I was before. So my incarnations in life are guiding me in this lifetime. And that makes total sense because I have a lot of male guides that guide me. And I'm not really a lady that kind of lets men tell me what to do, you know. So and I'm like, I've got all these blokes. I do have a couple of girls that step in. One looks like my nan, which is quite weird. She's a Romany called Paulina. So we call her affectionately the hag. And if I'm teaching and she's in, they all know, and the students were like, the hag is here, you know, because I'm stricter. Paddy is my control when I do trance. So I'm a trance medium as well, and he loves to speak. And I will not embarrass myself with my Irish accent, because even though my mum is Irish, also in spirit now, but my mum's Irish. So, but I've never spoken with an Irish accent. You know, she had me here in London. So, and I'm not going to embarrass myself, but Paddy speaks through me with a proper Irish accent, and I have demonstrated trance in Ireland with Irish students, so they would know if I was like faking it, you know. And not that I ever would, but you know, there's always that part of you that wants to know you're doing it right for them. And every single one of them, you know, one of my closest friends, Catherine, she's from Dublin, and she's like, they can even pinpoint where the accent's from, you know. And I've now been there. To where, because he died in the potato famine in 1851. So I know him, he knows me. I have a Native American, which totally makes sense because I grew up with him, always grew up with him. And I have Luke, I have Paulina, I have another guide that we just call Light, and I refer to that guide as feminine because there's a gentleness to it, but she sings and I don't sing, and not at all. So, but she uses my fingers, and she will. So obviously, I'm not there, so I'm not really. If I was there, I don't think it would work. And she will put different fingers in my mouth, and that makes a different note, and it goes so high, and it's kind of. I think Catherine's idea was it kind of messes your head up when you hear her, because it's impossible. And I'll come out of it and talk normally, and they're all like, how can you talk like that when you've just had your vocal cords have just been swung on pretty much, you know? So they're the ones I'm working with at the moment. I have another guy that's talking called Jonathan, still working out what he's coming for. I have a little kid that likes to come in sometimes. And when I do healing, I have 3 ladies that are in, you know, like the Vietnamese coolie hats, do you know, like that. So I don't know what their faces look like because they're so little. If I walk around a healing bed, they're always in front of me, so I've never seen their faces, but they're tiny little ladies. And I have elementals as well. So I have a little goblin kind of guy that likes to visit other people and freak them out as well sometimes. So I think that's all. Like, I'm trying to remember if I've forgotten someone, because they will definitely remind me later. but yeah, and I work a lot with ascended masters as well. I didn't know, I've been working with Serapis Bay for probably about 20 years and didn't realize. And I think, you know, you kind of said that about me, that I'm not really, if someone had said, oh, you've got ascended master Serapis Bay, back then I'll be like, no, that's not right, you know, you're making that up. So I've had to almost like grow into myself to actually be able to say it out loud. Serapis Bay works with me, you know, and why wouldn't he? Do you know what I mean? But if you'd have said that even 50, even probably even 5 years ago, I would have said to you, no, why would he but work with me? I'm just me, you know. So they know, like my Native American, he knew when to identify himself, because if I'd have known that in the beginning, he just had like one white feather, and so I just called him White Feather, you know. So and now I know his real name, I know his lineage. But yeah, I'm not, I don't get bogged down in all that either. Do you know, it's like they're not for me. I'm not there, I'm not present when they do their work. They heal. I mean, Paddy has saved lives. He saved a baby's life as well.
Wow.
In circle, teaching my circle, and one of the ladies was pregnant, and he just came in straight away, and he was telling, it was like half me, half him, and he was telling me what needed to happen. She needed to go to the hospital. She must have a scan. They mustn't do this and this with her, because one of the babies was coming home, was going back to spirit, and one was going to stay, but the one going home, she would come back in 2 years. So, and he said it was a little girl that was coming. There was a little girl going back. 2 years later, she would come, and exactly that, you know. So the little girl came, and her sister came 2 years later. So so instead of the mum being all panicky, it was sort of like, I mean, it's not nice to know that a child's going back, but they couldn't both come. So one had to make a decision to leave and come back at a later time. And you just think, like, even saying that out loud, Kelly, it's like, wow, do you know, it's that I'm listening to what I'm saying, and like,
incredible.
that just happened. Do you know what I mean? And it just, I trust them completely. If they said do this, I would do it. Absolutely. Yeah.
Incredible. One of the things I will explain for those of you that are watching this on YouTube, and I will say to everybody that's listening to it, like saying Spotify and Apple and things, I'm constantly wiping my eyes, because when I hear truth, I'm a very sensitive person. It's like I can't stop the tears coming. They just come of their own accord. I'm like, oh, please stop. I'm going to have no makeup left on. I love everything that you've shared there, TJ. It's just, oh my goodness, so many things I want to come back to you about. What Luke has shared with you is so, it resonates so much with me. When I first met guides as I was developing, I thought of them all as separate to me. And over time, what I've now learned and what I believe to be true is that they are aspects of my soul group. So when you're talking about, Luke talked to you about the soul pool, I believe now that I am this multidimensional being. I'm an eternal soul, and that we are all fractals of source, of the Godhead, and that we have had many, many lives, many of us, not always on this planet either.
100%. Light is definitely not of this planet.
Absolutely. So I love all that you have shared there. And also about the trance mediumship. I knew as soon as I saw you and learned about what trance mediumship was, I thought, I know that TJ does trance. And I've never heard you speak about it until now. And what you said about the eyes as well, like the eyes are always the same. And I think for me, that's the telltale sign. I know when somebody's a trance medium, it's something about your eyes. And when you said that you went to the group and that your friend had observed you, she says, oh my God, I can't take you back. You look like a bloke. So I've experienced trance mediumship. I'm not a trance medium myself, but I have experienced it many times. Where I have observed it mostly is when I'm doing healings on people, and I can see different multidimensional aspects of their soul group coming in, and I'm like, whoa, they look very different lying there, and it blows my mind. And what you spoke about too, when you're healing others, and the three little souls with our hats on, for me, it shifted from it always being consistently the same to now I don't know who's coming in. I just trust that it's divine love that's coming in. And you spoke about light as well. So you have a guide that's just light. Well, one of my recent experiences, it was a shamanic journey I was on, and it was light, and it gave me a name. It was very elemental, and it was dancing around. And then I went back to when I was a little girl, and I was that light, and I was trying to grab my little self's attention.
Yeah.
And it was a bit of inner child healing that was going on. So honestly, you've shared so much there that I'm just like, oh my God, I want to know so much. But I know that we've only got a certain amount of time together, and I want to hear so much more. You spoke about when you were a child, seeing green and blue around your dog, and obviously your Jack Russell Pepsi was brown and white, and you thought that was just normal. So what for me you're describing as somebody's energy field or aura,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I can occasionally see auras, not always, but there are times where I do, so I totally understand that and the importance of colour and frequency too. So you also spoke about hearing that voice when you were warned that you were going to get hurt and danger, and I've never ignored that voice again. So what are the main clairs that you work with? Do you work with them all as I do? Because I'm
Yes,
guessing you do.
I'm greedy. No, I think because I'm a teacher, so and well, a guide. I like to think I'm guiding and mentoring, you know. So I think if I didn't have all the clairs, I wouldn't be able to teach because I am, you know, like I said, Capricorn. I like to do things correctly. And if I've got a clairvoyant, I need to understand them. I need to understand all of those things. But when I work on a stage or on a rostrum, I'm predominantly clairsentient, so I'm feeling, and clairknowing. So I'm just allowing the feelings and the thoughts to work.
Yeah.
If I work clairvoyantly from a platform or a stage, the audience or, you know, the congregation, they will hear me say, oh, it's a queue jumper, because they're standing in front of me, and then it drains the energy so fast for that person to communicate with me, and I'm sort of like, well, get behind me and it'll be easier. And, so I've seen some very strange things on the walls. And if I go, there's a church that I work in Woking, one of my favorites. They're beautiful people there. I've been going there, I don't know how many years that I've been serving their church. Not many. I'm new to the church now, really, over the last sort of 2 or 3 years. But this one, and there's like blue eyes will appear, do you know, like in a man, a very delicious man normally comes around there, and all sorts of things.
No wonder that's your favourite.
Yeah, I know, it's my favourite. The man with blue eyes and dark hair, you know, a little bit Elvis looking, very yummy.
Oh,
yeah, exactly. That raises the aura, doesn't it? Always. And, so I will almost like try and encourage spirit to stay behind me when but if I'm in a one-to-one, and I do a lot of that on Zoom now because my clients are worldwide, and I've got a space beside my screen where which is completely blank, and I will just look there for the information, you know. So I've always seen auras in people, and I've always known when people lie, because it's like they're wearing, do you remember in the comedy shows where they used to put the black round the, you know, the binoculars, and they'd go like that, and then the black would stay there? I see that on people that lie to me.
Wow.
And it depends on the extent of the lie. If it's only a little one, it's not so dark. But if it's really dark, they're warning me, don't go near that person, stay away from them. You know, so, and auras, you know, I know, as you know, the way that we work in a healing capacity, sometimes people are almost mirrors, and that's why we reject them, because we're like, I don't want to face that about myself just yet.
A trigger.
And but I think aurically, I know who I can trust, and I do think, you know, I'm a big dog lover. You know, they're not in here right now because they would make too much noise, but and dogs have always trusted me. We've got horses next door that I get to look at, but I don't have to pay for, which is beautiful. They'll come up to the fence and tell me things about themselves, you know, which kind of freaks the stable lady out. Christine, she's like, what do you know? It's like, your horse has got something wrong with its back legs, and it's this and this, and can't eat. And I've lived here 2 years now, so they're used to it, and they're like, oh, so and so's off, can you go and have a look? And then they're inviting me into the field. Yeah, exactly. Like, go around, but they normally will come and tell me. So I think, you know, you know, your aura is who you are, isn't it? You know, so if you're giving off love, and I don't mean that in a like a I bounce around the world giving off love, because I don't. I'm a human, you know. I've got my horrible days, but I think ultimately I just want people that meet me to feel good being in my presence. And I think as long as you can just do that bit, you don't need to do any more, do you? You know.
I know, what a beautiful gift. What a beautiful gift. And I really hope that you're coming up to Scotland sometime. Are there any plans to come north of the border with your tour?
Absolutely. I mean, I was there in January, but I went to the vaults. So we hired the vaults. Yes, that was pretty, yes. That was
very intense.
Very intense. And all the alarms went off, and spirit were like coming at us. It was very, very cool. But yeah, I'd love to come back. I'm always being invited back to Dundee, to the theatre there. So yeah, and I'm not just saying it because you're Scottish, but I am Celtic. You know, I've got Irish, we've got Scottish, I've got Welsh, so I'm a bit of a Celtic mongrel. That's what I say. But there is something special when you're in Scotland and Ireland and Wales, but Scotland and Ireland, I don't know, it does feel like a coming home for me as well. And I learned an awful lot about Edinburgh and it being called Little Ireland as well, you know, in some of those areas from back in the day. So I think, I just think this part of my soul is there. Do you know, there's a calling there, isn't there?
Just a resonance.
I'd love to come there. Yes. So anyone who runs a church in Scotland and you want me to come up, just send a little email.
I'll be sharing the podcast everywhere. You will be invited by many, I can assure
I would love
you,
to.
TJ.
I'd love to. Yeah, definitely.
My goodness. I want to ask, because I know that I can't keep you for a long time. I want to ask, what have been some of the most mind-blowing experiences that you've ever had, either personally, when connecting with spirit, or when you're working with someone? What are the things that stick in your mind?
So I think the life-saving, I think that is, like I said earlier, we not take it for granted, but we do our thing, you know, and you don't realize the impact it's having and the ripple effect it has on the person that gets a message from you, or, you know, someone in the audience might just start to believe in spirit, you know. So there's a massive ripple effect. And I've had, I wrote about one of these experiences in my book. The family are actually in all my books because they've just been a big part of my journey. And I read for this, I met this lady years ago, and she won't mind me saying her name, Barbara. She's been very public with this. I tend to protect people, but she's spoken about it publicly. And I read for her mum, and then her mum asked when she was going to pass, and she was terminally ill. And so I saw that she would be there for Christmas, but I couldn't see her there at New Year. So, and she was waiting to go home to be with her husband. So it wasn't bad news I was giving her.
Yeah.
She passed on the 28th of December, and I know that because she visited me and told me, let them know I'm home, you know. So so she was always a big part of my journey. I read for Barbara, and I don't use a crystal ball, but I love them. I love crystals.
Me too.
And I've got a big fluorite one. So for those people that don't know, fluorite is green and blues and purple. So it's not a clear ball.
No.
I had it in my head that my crystal ball had to be on my table this day, you know. So I'm thinking I'm just dressing the table for Barbara coming for her reading. In the middle of the reading, her mum's there, and I look at the crystal ball, and her mum's giving me a warning for her. And in the ball, it was turtles were drowning. All I could see was turtles drowning. And I said to her, I don't know where you're going. And I didn't know where she was going. I said, but wherever it is, the turtles are drowning. So you can't go, you know. And her mum's, you've got to tell her, got to show her.
Yeah.
So Barbara's gone home, told her lovely husband, who I don't think was very impressed because they'd spent a lot of money on this holiday. I didn't think any more of it until Boxing Day, when I got a phone call from her husband telling me that I'd saved the lives of his wife and his 4 sons and himself, because they'd decided to go to Portugal for Christmas instead of going to Thailand, where they would have been right in the center of the tsunami. Like I said, if Spirit had said there's a tsunami, I wouldn't have had a clue what they were talking about. I'd never really heard of them. Do you know, it wasn't in my vocabulary, as I say. But turtles drowning frightened me. And I thought, if a turtle's drowning in the sea, that's not good news. You know, a human's not going to survive.
Yeah.
So saved a family's life, you know, from me just saying what I get, rather than trying to interpret and say, I believe this or I believe that. It's just the turtles are drowning. You can't go there. And I've done that quite a few times. And I was touring New Zealand, and a lovely man came forward for his best mate in the audience, and pretty much outed him that he didn't want to be here anymore, the young man in the audience, and the life that he was living, you know, he would soon be on the other side of life if he didn't sort himself out and go the same way as his friend had. And I'm happy to report that that young man is still alive and is still here and still communicates with me on Facebook and, you know, in Messenger and things like that. And I just think, what if I hadn't have gone to New Zealand that day? What if I'd been ill? What, you know, all those things. It's like they know where to put me. And there was another lady that she didn't get a message, and she was waiting at the end. And the medium I was touring with was called Kelvin, and he was signing books, and I'd finished my queue. And so I got up, and my husband was with me, and he said, there's a lady over there and she's waiting. I think you should go and speak to her. And so I went over to this lady and I was like, is everything okay? And her friend said, no, it's not all right. It's not all right. And as soon as she said that, this young man came straight in. It was her son. He'd committed suicide. And he was almost like shouting at her. And I'll never forget, his name is Adam, and his brother's called Bailey, because he showed me a glass of Bailey's so I'd get the name. So I would never ever forget that. And his mum had decided that night that if she didn't get a message from either one of us from the stage, she was going to go home and commit suicide to be with her son in spirit. And you just think, again, like how Spirit knew to put us there at the right time, and for me to have finished, and for me to go over. And I'm not someone that will be like, oh, I finished now, so it's over. Do you know, I'm not like that. It's like, if Spirit need to talk to you and you're in my queue, I'm going to ask permission, but you're going to get a message, you know. And I'm happy to report that lady is still very much alive, you know. So I think that impact is just, you know, I still can't get my head around it really, you know. And you know, we do get attacked, don't we, for who we are, and people that are ignorant of what it all means. And I just think, well, attack me all day long, because I don't care. There are people alive in this world because I don't care what you think, and I'm serving Spirit. You know, I know the truth. When I go, I know where I'm going. Good luck to you. You're going to have to get in a long queue and work it out, you know.
Oh my goodness. So powerful, TJ. So powerful. I love all of what you've shared there.
Thank you.
And this is the thing, it's like that ripple effect. It's not just that you have saved those people's lives, but it's their family, it's their friends, it's all of that. And then you don't know, by them still being here, the impact they've then gone on to have in other people's lives. It's so far reaching, isn't it?
I don't credit myself for that. I credit Spirit, you know, for putting me in the right place at the right time. You know, I just happen to be that medium, and I'm sure there's many mediums that have those stories as well, where you just if you trust them, the things that you can do to change, enhance, inspire, all of those things. That I'm a big one on working in your own kind of like backyard. You know, it's like, do your thing in your space. And that will have a ripple effect, you know. So if we all did that, if we all lined up across the world, did something good in our own little space, the light that's going to bring is amazing, isn't it? You know. So yeah,
what a beautiful message for everybody listening to, you know, just to take into their heart, is that reminder of what love can do and what the service of love can do. And don't ever think that you, one person, can't change the world for the better just by, like you say, look after your own back garden.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, just smiling at someone that you know, you might smile at somebody that
Mhm.
hasn't had a smile for, or
Mhm.
just needs to be reminded how to smile. You know, just
Yeah.
those tiny little, you know,
Mhm.
that might seem very tiny, but to that person, it's not tiny. Or if someone does speak to you, because sometimes, I mean, I get people everywhere I go, not because of who I am, they don't know who I am, and they talk to me, and my husband's like, oh, here she goes again, you know. But I don't care, because I think that person
Yeah.
needed me at that moment, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and again, they will pay it forward, you
Yeah.
know. So
Yeah.
I think if we all did that, because in the old days, I sound like a right old lady, don't I? But in the old days, people used to talk to each other, didn't they? Do you know? And
Absolutely.
now people are
Absolutely.
frightened to speak to each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love talking to everybody about all different religions, and you know, I love learning about how you know, other people's thought processes and beliefs. I think that just makes you a better person to understand
Really
someone,
does.
doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right?
It's looking at the world through the curious eyes of a child
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
not holding
Yeah, I'm
back.
still a kid.
Do you know, my girls can get really embarrassed with me because they'll say, Mum, do you need to speak to everybody? Do you need to get everybody's life story? I believe that that is part of my mission here, actually.
Yeah.
And that's been part of the reason for doing this podcast, so that we do start to communicate in that way again, because their stories are so powerful. It's all the lessons that we've learned, it's who we're becoming in each and every moment and trying to be better in each and every moment. And when that's what makes us human, isn't it? It's like without the connection, and like you say, it doesn't take much just to smile or say hello or strike up a conversation, because you don't know how much that person needs that day. And
Yeah.
the divine placement of each one of us, yeah, just might just spark something in someone.
And it can, I had a my son is a strong man, so he was doing one of his competitions, and
Wow.
we stayed in Sheffield, and we were staying in quite a. I chose a hotel with the least walk-in to the arena, you know, because we were only there overnight, and it was kind of like quite an interesting hotel. It was clean, it was tidy. That's all you need. So yeah, and we'd seen this young lady earlier in the day. We'd gone to the event. So in the evening, we're all sat down. There was no food at the hotel. So we've ordered pizzas in, and we're sitting there. And this young lady comes in, and she was very slight, very slim, loads of tattoos, all this sort of stuff, and just looked very lost, but also very angry. But anyway, she came over to us, and I said, "Are you hungry? Because we've got too much pizza. You know, you're welcome to this." And then she was like, "Thank you." And we struck up a conversation with her. And long story, she'd just come out of jail that day. They dropped her off at the hotel for the weekend.
Gosh.
She needed medication because she was bipolar, had no medication, no money, no medication, and dropped off and just left until someone came to get her on Monday. So she was, you know, quite fragile, really, and very angry, and but still beautiful. You know, all of these emotions all at once. And so we were sat with her, and all the guys had gone to bed by then, you know, and it was just us girls sitting there. And one of my friends, Catherine, she said to her, "What do you think she does?" Like pointing to me, and she looked at me. It's going to make me feel very emotional. She looked me straight in the eye and she said, "You work for God." And that's now I'm at a strongman competition with my son. You know, I was not being TJ. I'm just, you know, mummy. And she said, could she go and get her Bible? So she'd gone to her room. She came back with her Bible. She couldn't read or write properly, but she'd learned to write this part of a verse out of the Bible. And she said, "Can I read it to you?" And it took her 3 goes. She was getting very flustered. So I just held her hand and went, "It's fine. We're here. It doesn't matter if it goes wrong. You know, God's listening." And she read this passage out of the Bible to us. And you could see this young woman that obviously felt, you know, I've just come out of jail. No one's going to want to talk to me. I'm one of those people, you know. And we just sat, had pizza with her and chatted, and she read the Bible to us, you know. And that young woman will stay with me forever, you know. And I often, we talk about her and we think about her and send love to her, you know. And I really hope she's doing well. But you know, they send you these people, don't they?
Oh,
You know?
yeah. Absolutely.
We could have quite easily, oh no, look
Yeah.
at the state of her, look at her tattoos, or look at this, and judge. I never ever judge somebody like that.
Yeah.
Someone with tattoos is not like an awful person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How beautiful. I've had a download recently. I was talking about quantum entanglement with a client, and then my higher self, as I describe it,
Yeah.
was I had quantum imprinting. And it's that beautiful impression that you have. You leave that imprint on someone forever. They are changed forever as a result of that energy exchange that you've had. And that
Yeah,
goes both ways. And
definitely. Yeah.
it's just so, so beautiful, all these shares, TJ. Honestly, I have not stopped with my eyes filled with water since we started this conversation. So I want to thank you for being so generous with your time and with these beautiful words that you've shared with us today. And I'm not sure if you get many readings yourself. I know that you've got a whole team that works with you and, many, many mediums that you've trained yourself. But I would love to give you a reading from my own Oracle deck, the Soul Call
Thank
Oracle
you.
deck that
Yes.
I released last year. If you would love to receive. So I'm just going to pull a card for you, and this will be for you, TJ, and everybody that's tuning in.
Thank you.
Oh, how perfect. Voice of the heart, and it's somebody who has a mic. What's that? Speak your truth. So I'm going to share with you the message. How perfect, eh? Couldn't make it up.
No.
Voice of the heart calls you to step into your authentic power. I think you've already nailed that
Oh,
one,
and
TJ.
this means a lot to me today, Kelly. I promise you, it's the right time for this message. Definitely.
I love it. Speaking your truth with unwavering love and compassion. Your voice holds the wisdom, guidance, and healing that others may need to hear. It is through your words, spoken with gentleness and sincerity, that you offer light to those around you. Whether you are offering advice, sharing your thoughts, or expressing your feelings, let your words flow from the deepest part of your heart, where love is the foundation. Do not suppress your truth or hold back out of fear of judgment. Your authentic voice is needed now more than ever. In a world that is in the midst of profound transformation, the voice of the divine feminine is rising, and your contribution is part of this global shift. When you speak from your heart, you help elevate collective consciousness, infusing it with love, wisdom, and compassion that are so essential for humanity's evolution. Even if your voice trembles, it holds immense power. Every time you speak with integrity, you strengthen your connection to your true self and contribute to a more loving world. This card encourages you to be brave, to lead with your heart, and to use your voice as a beacon of truth and love. You are being called to rise, to speak up, and to share your message with the world. Your words have the power to uplift, heal, and transform. Trust in your heart's wisdom and know that your voice is a force for good in the world. Heart's voice, rise and sing. Truth and love through me take wing. Even if my voice should shake, with truth and love, new paths I make.
Wow. Thank you. Don't realise how important that is to me today, right now, today. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
amazing,
No, thank you. I
amazing.
really appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, you are so, so welcome, TJ. It has been the most beautiful time spent in your company. Thank you so, so much. I'm very jealous of those horses that are right next to you. Having a wee chat with you every day. I would love to be a horse just along the way from you, TJ. I would love to invite you on again sometime in the future, TJ.
Love,
Oh,
definitely. Yes.
and everybody, thank you so much for tuning in today. You will, if you don't know TJ, you will get to know TJ. Find her on tjhiggs.com, and I wish you all the very best for the remainder of your tour and all the beautiful heart service that you are putting out into the world, TJ. Thank you so, so much.
Thanks, Kelly. Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Soul Call with Kelly B today. If this episode spoke to your heart, I'd be so grateful if you'd take a moment to like, subscribe, or share it with someone who needs to hear it. Your support truly means the world, and it helps this message ripple even further. And if you're feeling called to explore more of my work, my latest offerings, sessions, and ways to connect are all in the show notes below. I would love to hear from you. Until next time, keep listening to your beautiful soul. With so much love, Kelly.